I'm going to show you how to build a railing to an easing to a turn and where to cut that easing so it matches the angle of your stairs. Stay tuned. All right, so this is a situation where I'm going to go from a handrail that's going to be held onto the wall with brackets, and then I'm going to transition to a plowed rail that will receive balusters. And this railing that goes up the wall, of course, will be a solid rail. It won't have a plow on the bottom. And by the way, this is just a temporary piece of railing glued on here so that I could do my setup and planning. It'll have a 5-foot piece of solid rail and a miter at the top of the stairs and a finished end. So once we get down here, it's going to transition to an easing. The tricky part, of course, is cutting that easing so that it matches the angle of the stairs. Then it's going to connect to a quarter turn, and then eventually it'll connect to a post. Now, I've been to the job site, of course, and I've taken the measurements of the stairs and determined that my rise is 7 3/4 and my run is 9, and that is sort of pivotal to this whole process because you're going to use a pitch block just like this to determine where you're going to cut this easing. When you start your cutting, you're going to glue this quarter turn onto a piece of melamine or plywood so that you can square off the ends, and that's sort of the starting point, and then you'll build from there. We're going to be joining the railings with Lamello Invis, and I'll show you all the complications and sort of cool features of that process. Now, the whole purpose of an easing can be illustrated like this. If we were to come down the staircase with a handrail at the angle of the stairs, go directly into a turn and into the post, it would look like this. And it would just not be right. All handrail transitions to a post must end up with the handrail turn or the fitting going perpendicular to the vertical post. By incorporating an easing, we're able to go from angle of the stairs or the rake of the stairs and transition to the horizontal connection to the post so that the fitting is perpendicular to the post. And the trick will be is how do you cut the easing so that it matches the angle of the stairs. So this right here is a fresh easing directly from the supplier, and it has not been cut yet. So what you're going to do is join this easing to your horizontal fitting so that this horizontal fitting is sitting flush on your bench, and then you're able to use a pitch block to determine where you're going to cut that easing. So the fitting has to be attached to some kind of piece of melamine or plywood so that you can square off the edges and hold it firm so you can attach the easing and then mark your easing for with your pitch block. Now, whether you're going to use the Lamello Invis system like I'm doing, or whether you're just going to glue it and use some kind of fasteners, you have to connect these small little pieces to each other, and for that you need to attach them to some kind of plywood or melamine. And one of the reasons I put the fitting onto a piece of sheet goods is that they're not always perfectly square at the ends. This is a factory cut. It's not perfectly square, so I put this on the piece of melamine so that it's parallel to this edge, and then I square it off on my saw first. Otherwise, you're off to a bad start. The piece of sheet goods also assists you in clamping it to your bench. So when you do, whether you use dominoes or whether you use Lamello Invis, then you can attach and drill these out without them coming off. Now, most of the time I have been gluing with hot glue, and sometimes I'll put a piece of tape between the fitting and the melamine just so there's less cleanup. But I did run into a situation where the drilling process knocked the fitting off the melamine, and that's because the hot glue just wasn't secure enough. So you can also use the 2-part CA glue, and it works really well. I would say that's maybe a better route to go if you have something that's really critical, like an easing. So that you can understand the workflow, I'm going to give you a briefing on how the Lamello Invis works. Basically, you're using this magnetic element and inserting that in one workpiece, and then a receiver that they refer to as a stud, and putting that in the other workpiece, so that you can then join two pieces of railing, a railing and a fitting or what have you, and use a magnet to tighten up this element. So this element will turn using this magnet that fits into a drill, and it must be a cordless drill, not an electric 110-bolt drill. Now, you'll get a pretty good feel for how to use an Invis kit on your railings by watching this video. But if you want real precise instructional video, I have one on my channel, and I'll leave a link for that right here. I'm going to take my pitch block, 7 3/4 inch rise, 9-inch run, slide it up to the easing, mark where the easing and the pitch block meet, rotate the pitch block, keep it on that line, then mark the top of the easing, and that is where you're going to cut your easing. So I've just marked on here where I can cut away from this jig because I'm concerned that the saw won't plunge deep enough to cut the easing off once it's glued up. Just have to sand that up a bit. Good. Good. Well, I hope you're enjoying this video. This is a little figurine my granddaughter Laval made for me. She's a great fan of the channel, and I hope you are too. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment below, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any new videos. There's more to come, so hang in there. Okay, so we've got this railing set in place, and I can tell that my angles are correct because this turn is sitting flush on the floor and the railing is sitting flush on the nosings as it goes up the stairs. So that's a bonus. I'm going to take this back to the shop and I'm going to remove this temporary chunk of railing right here and add the appropriate length to get to the top of the stairs. From this point on, I'm going to have a plowed rail so I can have balusters into the stair treads. Now this railing, when it's done, is going to connect to this post. With this post is going to go where this small post is located, and it's going to go in and through this volute tread right to the construction grade floor. So this railing is going to be connected to the wall somewhere like this and then connect to the post there, and there'll be several handrail brackets going up the stairs. So time to go back to the shop and get it all done. There. So that cut is 40 degrees. Shows 50 on the digital level box, but you got to subtract that from 90. and I get 40. Angle of the stairs by my calculations was 40.75, so that is pretty darn close, and it works, so that's the main thing.